Friends, welcome. This is the first time in a long while that I'm doing a live broadcast, and I'm doing so from sunny Mexico, from the banks of Lake Bacalar, where I've been for the last few weeks, setting in motion a New Earth Sanctuary project, which I'll be making more announcements about soon. Tomorrow I'm heading up to Cancun, and I'll be leading a couple of retreats there on the island off the coast of Cancun for the next couple of weeks with the Santos Bonacci and David Sarita participating, Elena Bensonoff and Alejandro Ferradas, and Margot Anand, and U.S. Postmaster General Russell J. Gould, and other great and good icons are also joining. Shanaz Soni, our delightful NASA rocket scientist who co-hosts the Lazarus Symposium, will also be with me on the island. Looking forward to doing some live broadcast in the duration of the retreats. Today is an important interview as far as I'm concerned, because the very brave doctor that I'm speaking to came forward with a unique piece of information, which is something I've known about for some years. And it's connected to, let's just say, the worst possible aspects of the deep state, and how that nefarious military-industrial complex, working hand in glove with the parent corporation, has sought to steal its way into the human genome. That is what we're speaking about. Be crystal clear, friends. The whole COVIDiacy, this corona crowning event of our civilizational death spiral, the apocalyptic narrative, the thousands of years of war and disease and poverty and bloodlust that is essentially the backdrop to our story, is all coming now to roost. All of that is now becoming very palpable, very visible on the street, at the street level, at the pedestrian level. And for good reason, because the universal laws insist on certain fulfillments of the covenant. We have been asleep civilizationally and interspecies for millennia. And being so asleep has allowed for a convocation of darkness, of shadow, of evil, of wickedness, however we want to coin it, to orchestrate its own timeline, so to speak. And that's happened. And we've now all got to a point where we're waking up within, or those of us who are sentient and conscious are now waking up within the thrall of that Babylonian dream spell, as I put it. But be clear that everything that we're witnessing, from central banking to the way that the food supply of the world is systemically poisoned, to the way that the global quadrillion-dollar pharmaceutical industry proliferated in the last century, more or less, courtesy of the Rockefeller-Rothschild convention, the satanic aspect of the central priest bankers, who are the proxies of the devil and the kingdom of the devil in that sense. It's a slightly sensationalist language, I will agree, but not nearly as sensational and sensationalist as the reality that we're seeing play out on the street, with hundreds of millions of imbeciles lurching around with muzzles on their faces, with hundreds of millions, if not billions, if we're to believe the mainstream media, of people who are now volunteering themselves up for sacrificial harvest to Moloch, to the lords of time, by rolling up their idiot sleeves, lining up in their idiot queues outside the clinics, the hospitals, and the doctors' waiting rooms. All too many of those doctors and nurses themselves caught up in a satanic and Luciferian thrall of false light witness, people who have lost their own reason, who have become indentured only to systems and formulae, dreamt up by deviant priest bankers who control our global apparatus of government, who control the rules and the regulations and the statutes and the codes that cast witchery and black magic over this world. All of those functionaries of the medical profession are caught up in the Babylonian dream spell and themselves are purposed toward evil, eternal shame upon them, wearing their stupid hazmat suits and their stupid masks, forgetting every single one of them what Florence Nightingale taught us over a century ago, that we need oxygen, we need sunlight, we need reason, and we need alignment with our divine purpose in order to thrive, let alone survive. I'm speaking today to a very noble doctor, one of the rare birds who understands nursing and doctoring and the application of medicament, which is supposed to help and serve biological systems and human beings. This is a rare animal indeed. Dr. Atousa Mahdavi is a holistic health expert, a speaker, and a best-selling author. She is a doctor of chiropractic, certified in integrative medicine, functional medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine. She is a Hatha yoga master teacher and an Ayurvedic yoga therapist. And her life's calling is about helping others achieve optimal health and wellness, vitality, and vibrant energy. Now, with a profound understanding and knowledge and mastery of the human system and the mechanics of wellness and of health, she has over 25 years of hands-on clinical experience and has helped thousands of her patients, including A-lister athletes and entertainment personalities, achieve optimal wellness naturally. She's a clinical faculty at Southern California University of Health Sciences, and her upcoming book, Wholly You, soon to be published on Amazon. She's one of the authors of a Wall Street Journal best-selling book called The Expert's Cure. Dr. Atousa, you are very welcome today.
Thank you very much, Sacha, for having me.
We've got about 500 people online with us now. We just dropped the broadcasting. We've done no marketing, no promotions, but I can tell you that tens of thousands will have seen what you have to say by the end of today, and hundreds of thousands within 24 to 48 hours, provided the Google Gestapo do not remove us, which they'll certainly try to do. But please, could you just elaborate just a little on what it is that you are teaching today in California?
So I teach at an integrative health university that has programs such as doctorate degree in chiropractic, in Ayurvedic medicine, in acupuncture medicine, integrative medicine, as well as physician's assistants. And so I've been teaching in the chiropractic as a part-time as a part-time teacher, and in the University Health Center as a part-time clinical faculty.
Very good. What is functional medicine? What is the technical definition of functional medicine as opposed to Ayurvedic medicine?
Oh, so functional medicine comes from the Western perspective of medicine and nutrition, to be more specific. It doesn't use, for the most part, pharmaceutical meds, but it uses lifestyle medicine, diet, nutrition, supplementation, herbs, daily routines, etc. But according to the individual's baseline of physiology, which is attained by laboratory testing, such as blood testing the blood, as well as tissue mineral analysis. I use hair mineral analysis to determine the level of toxicities in the body, as well as urine and analysis of the stool. So it's based on testing. So in that sense, it basically uses the technologies of the conventional medicine in diagnostic purposes, but it does not utilize the conventional means of treatment. It uses alternative means of treatment.
Understood. So what kind of patients do you see as a rule?
So functional medicine is something that I do in my own private practice. At the university, we only see chiropractic patients and Ayurvedic patients and acupuncture, but I'm only in the Ayurveda and the chiropractic part of it. So in my own functional medicine practice, I see numbers of different people with varieties of ailments, from digestive issues like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, to autoimmune diseases, arthritis,
so it's
cancer.
It's across the board. Very good. Now, 2021, this year, you've been practicing for a long time. You wouldn't think it to look at you, incidentally. But
thank you.
How shocked, how horrified are you by the medical fraternity in the year 2021?
Honestly, I've always been horrified, even before 2020 and 2021. It's just that I was amongst other people, personalities like me in the alternative realm, or even some medical physicians that adhere to holistic medicine, that we were lone wolves. We were, trying to bring people to awareness and make them conscious of the tyrannical medical establishment that has been basically poisoning humanity. So this hasn't been a new realization for me. It just went to a different level.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think my question is the heat being driven up? Is it that much worse today than it was 5 years ago, 15, 20 years ago as a medical practitioner?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The day that you have no authority over your own body,
right,
and you cannot reject a treatment, it's a very pivotal moment in the history of medicine and history of humanity. So
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Hippocratic Oath. Just remind people looking in here, what does the Hippocratic Oath speak to? What is that all about?
Well, first, you do no harm. First, the physician doesn't do harm and holds the life of the patient above everything, including financial gains. And the physician does their due diligence to make sure that by administering treatment or medicine, they're not causing harm, which honestly, it's been not really followed through by most of the medical, practitioners and doctors in the conventional medicine perspective, because the injuries due to vaccinations is not a new phenomenon. It's not a new thing. But nonetheless, the pediatricians constantly subjugate our children to these poisons.
Okay, where is the negative influence coming from in your view? Again, you've been at this a long time. So where is this interventionism coming from? Obviously, it's coming from federal government, but federal government is just a brain dead technology, which is rolled out by brain dead functionaries, otherwise known as bureaucrats and technocrats, people who by definition and distinction have little to no conscience, because a bureaucrat or a technocrat cannot have a conscience to function today in government. That is a given. But where is the nefarious influence actually stemming from in your view?
Well, it is not my view. It's a historical fact. About 150 years ago, the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Foundation, they hijacked medicine in the West. And they started funding medical schools, and they closed down the medical schools that were actually teaching herbology, teaching home remedies, self-care, herbs. Homeopathy, absolutely, naturopathy. So they even imprisoned and went after naturopathic physicians, chiropractic physicians, herbologists, homeopaths, They went after them. They
Well,
actually
they called them quacks and snake oil salesmen. Very clever move that, wasn't it? So they turned them, the real doctors were turned into quacks and snake oil salesmen 100 years ago. And that same phenomenon continues today. That if you're not one of their pharmaceutical cashiers operating through your medical practice, if you're not a pharmaceutical cashier or banker, then you are a quack or a snake oil salesman. All good doctors are castigated, vilified, targeted, and oftentimes imprisoned.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. And so, yeah, so, this has been going on for, 100 years, maybe 150 years, etc. And they're funding research. They are the bank, central, they control the central bank. It's also intertwined. And so they have programmed and indoctrinated the medical students early on in medical schools. Okay. And so they're taking away their critical thinking. Yeah. And they, are subject to programming that is established by the pharmaceutical industry. Right. And by the regulations that are done by, three-letter organizations that pretend that they have the
Let's stop there. Let's stop there a moment. CDC, Center for Disease Control, AMA, American Medical Association, WHO, World Health Organization. I think the most nefarious of the, I'm sorry?
And FDA.
And the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and the NIH, the National Institute for Health. So you've got all of these spaghetti agencies, and they are all weaponized, and they have been designed, in point of fact, at their genesis, they were designed to weaponize against good practice, good medicine, and anything that remotely resembles a cure, which is why in their sanctimonious bullshit protecting human beings from quacks and snake oil salesmen, they all come out and arrest good doctors, anyone creating any kind of cure for anything. So we all know how this plays out. My question to you is this, and it's a serious question. The Nuremberg type trials, which will come soon enough, in my view, 2025 is probably round about the year when we'll start to see remedy. I think we've got 2 more years of the satanic theater in the Gestalt. But once we get to dry land, and a couple of years is a very short span of time, we will be erecting gallows, metaphorically speaking, and we will be hanging people by the neck until dead, metaphorically speaking. We will be chopping heads off at the neck with a guillotine, metaphorically speaking. Do you believe that Anthony Fauci, that little turd of a man, or Tedros Ghebreyesus, the World Health Organization head, which of these 2 men is more culpable right now for mass medical murder and death by government decree, as you see it? World Health Organization or the CDC?
Honestly, I can't choose between the 2. I think they're equally culpable. I really can't. I think that they're both in different ways are culpable.
Okay, so just for people, for laypersons looking in, I know how this game works. I know how the multilateral governance sector works. I know how they use the World Food Program and the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF. I know how these satanic elements operating through the multilateral apparatus of governance use the other agencies to create a kind of coercion of developing nations, let's say. So if Mozambique is not behaving itself and doing what it's told to do, then the IMF weighs in and said, oi, we're going to withdraw the loans. You're going to crash and burn, go bankrupt, unless you sign those World Health Organization dictates. And, we're going to withdraw, the World Food Program is going to withdraw it, whatever. They've been playing these dirty trick games for decades, many decades. But it's interesting to try to understand and triangulate exactly where the CDC, the NIH, the FDA, the AMA, and the WHO intersect. I think it's actually incumbent on you and I to work out what is the intersect. So Food and Drug Administration governs all of the statutes and the ordinances connected to food and drugs being made available to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The CDC, Center for Disease Control, is the place that is supposed to be observing, monitoring, and preventing disease and outbreak, and acting as the early bird. And yet we now know through Wuhan and Kinetic and Bright and all the other institutions involved in the COVID scam, we know absolutely that the CDC is the one responsible for.
And CDC is a private corporation.
Yes.
It's not a government agency.
Well, the government is also private corporations. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh, okay.
So the federal government is also, or the corporation government of the United States, right now oversighted by its apparently Alzheimer afflicted CEO. Biden from Capitol Hill is a privately owned corporation. Be sure about that. And behind that, Crown interests and Vatican interests and Anglo-American Black nobility interests are the comptrollers and the owners of those corporation governments. Okay, CDC is responsible for essentially weaponization of the biosphere. They're supposed to be protecting us against acting, but they actually are the ones that proliferate. The NIH, National Institute for Health, what does that function? What is the function of the NIH?
Well, they put together policies, they fund research, because a lot of the policies that are made that surround issues of health, etc., require research. And one of the main objectives of NIH is to fund research on varieties of treatments, on hypotheses around disease, vaccination, drugs, etc.
Right. Okay.
And so basically, they have academia in their pocket. Let's just.
Very good. Very good. That's great distinction.
Yeah.
So the NIH have academia in their pockets, and the bursaries and the grants and all the rest of that rigged game, which again goes back to the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Warburgs and all of the wealthy families, Edwardian, Victorian families, that convened under what I loosely call the Rockefeller Rothschild Convention, which was really the wholesale weaponization of government and implementation of government as a necessary measure to begin the process of fully tabulating and registering every human soul on the planet, and every piece of land and every building and every vocation and every activity. Everything has to carry a registration or a license now. That's how satanic we've become as a quote unquote civilization. And the owners of those registered certificates or bonds, which are all collaterals. So humans are a collateral now to banker priests. Your vocation and the licenses and the registrations that you're required are also bonds on paper, which are collaterals. Your farm, your bicycle, your tractor, everything you think you own that you register to the federal government or to the state or the municipal government is or becomes a paper bond, which again is collateralized through the central bank cartels back to the invisible masters, who are in and of themselves satanic and luciferic entities. Absolutely. I'm going to be quite blunt about that. So you've had to witness in your noble profession, you've had to witness the systemic erosion of anything remotely resembling why you signed up to medicine in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have been fortunate enough to be certified and licensed in a holistic practice. So I didn't sign up for the atrocities that, unfortunately, knowingly or unknowingly, the conventional doctors are committing. So I feel fortunate that I have stuck to my oath and have not harmed and have helped and saved lives. So, I think that should answer that question.
What happens when you have a conversation over a glass of wine in a restaurant with colleagues, and they're batting for the wrong side. How do you resolve even conversations socially with those colleagues of yours who are indentured into this satanic nonsense of pharmacopoeia, allopathic murder?
Yeah, so some of them are open-minded, at least the ones that I associate with, because I really feel like I don't want to waste my energy and my lifespan on people that are too close-minded. So most of my people that I associate with that are the conventional medicine practitioners have a very open mind.
Okay.
And honestly, let me share this. At least a few of them are actually in our camp,
Right.
but we can speak up.
Well, why, when you say they can't speak up, this is the bit that I want to drill into. Okay. Why can't they speak up? Are you gonna tell me the usual nonsense that they speak about, putting food on the table, getting their kids through college? What are we talking about?
So losing their medical license.
Oh, good.
Which AMA has gone after a lot of them, and they have been delicensed, and they can't practice medicine anymore. But let me tell you, a couple of them are, even though they're not having these sort of interviews or on YouTube or in public arenas, they are telling their patients that they don't want them to take this experimental jab. Very good. That they are actually, from the start of the COVID or whatever it is that they want to label COVID, they have actually treated with ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, monoclonal antibodies, etc.
Okay.
So, fortunately, I haven't had to sit with colleagues and associates and friends and lose my mind, basically.
Yeah. Understood. So a video went viral in the last couple of days, made by a friend of mine, Max Egan from Australia. I'll be speaking to Max shortly. This video was of a funeral director in the United Kingdom, just a very standard good human, a funeral director who decided that his soul was being weighed on the line in his profession, and he had to speak out. And he's come out and basically said that COVID is an absolute scam. He's spoken to countless hospital administrators and hospital workers and residential old age homes and residential care homes and hospices. And his job as a funeral director is to go and pick up the bodies, whether they're at the hospital or they're at the hospice or they're at the residential home. And he knows his business of 25, 30 years. He knows absolutely what the statistics are of how many people drop dead in suburbia in their homes or in the hospice or the old age home or whatever. And he said, well, it's crystal clear to all people in his profession that the whole thing was a scam in the first place, and that medical murder is taking place inside hospices and, to some great extent, hospitals and old age homes, residential care homes, by design and by government decree. He's laid it all out, and he's had all the corroborations are there. Now, we've got to that point now where this kind of forensic evidence is becoming so palpable, so visceral, so obvious. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide for members of government, the public health administration sector, who themselves have been complicit with this Bilderberger, Davos, satanic, ritualistic nonsense of population reduction, is how they will put it lightly at their multilateral tables. But it's a culling. You've spoken to me, and this is the big piece, friends. As many hundreds of people are looking in here, more people coming on all the time. This might be the first time you're going to hear this piece. But when I first spoke to Dr. Atousa, she mentioned to me something which corroborated what I know from 15 years of work, research, and engagement with people in the military-industrial complex and in the vanguard of medical science and torture, CIA torture, MK Ultra, Project Monarch, how they've been using V2K, voice-to-skull technology, broadcasting messages into people's heads. This is now becoming a phenomenon all around the world. People who have been jabbed with this lethal cocktail of poisons, many of them are beginning to hear voices in their heads. Speak to this, please, Dr. Atousa.
Yeah. So what happened is it started with one case at the university where we had a young patient who was otherwise really healthy, no history of psychosis, no history of mental illness, and otherwise really healthy prior to her COVID vaccine and mRNA vaccine. And a month into it, she started hearing voices, auditory hallucinations, what we call. And so she came in because she wanted to consult with alternative holistic doctors, etc. She came to the university and she was examined by a colleague of mine on the day that she was at the healthcare facility. And the only variable that was different in her life in that month was the COVID vaccine, the mRNA vaccine. Then after that, I actually got a call from another patient that was going to come and see me. And this was a young man. And otherwise, again, no history of any underlying health issue, especially no history or even family history of schizophrenia, bipolar, or any of the mental illness spectrum. And within, again, 3 weeks after the mRNA vaccine, he was hearing voices. And this was the second case. Then a third case, which I'm supposed to see, has made an appointment. And on the introductory call, when she made to make the appointment, she is in her 40s, early 40s, late 30s. And otherwise a very healthy individual, very health conscious, diet-wise, lifestyle, routines, exercise, etc. And she was referred to me by a friend of mine who really believes in my care and protocols. And she basically also is hearing voices ever since she got the mRNA, both shots. And she said that she didn't want to do it, but there was some family pressure, etc. And she had the bad feeling about it, but she went and got it anyway at Pfizer. And so she's hearing voices. And none of these people have any dissociated symptoms that you can see in schizophrenia or bipolar that are hallucinating or having psychosis. These people are otherwise completely normal, like you and I, but suddenly or just continuously. So there are different scenarios in each one of them, but it's either frequent or intermittent or constant.
Okay. So let's just drill into this a little bit. So I'm going to just speak to the audience for a moment here. So we're talking about beaming into the human brain. And now this is stuff that for 75 plus years has been experimented by the deep state since the time of Joseph Mengele in the 1930s, connected to the Nazi empire. These kinds of genetic intervention and genomic experiments and perverse eugenics experiments and experiments to try and hack in essentially mind, body, and soul into humans has been a very real science. Billions of dollars have been expended by these Babylonian priests in order to hack in. And there's a very good reason why they seek to do this. You have to try to get more of a multidimensional perspective on who we are as a species to understand why certain elements on Earth are acting as proxies for such satanic agendas. But please consider that the human being is an extraordinary capacitor for divine transcoding of universal divine light, prana, life force, We are walking capacitors. We've got this incredible capacity, especially through the pineal function and the crown chakra, the top of our skulls, to transcode divinity into our biological systems. And from our biological systems, we radiate out into the field. So interceding in human divine connection has always been the prerogative or the objective of the priest in that sense. And forget good vicars and good priests for the moment. They just again clerks and lowly people with their own human weirdness to deal with. But forget all the self-important bullshit that priests have and nuns have, and just go back down to the foundation of church, the churchish mind, religion, religiosity. It's all about intervention. It's all about a force coming in to stand between us and our divinity, and to try to hack it and to try to subjugate through tithes, through money, through taxations, which is what tax is all about. So the taxes you pay today that keep you constantly in a state of turmoil, anxiety, and scarcity is connected directly to the tithes of the church, which transferred onto IRS, Inland Revenue taxes, and so on, through invisible contracts. All of it bullshit. None of it agreed to by you or me or our ancestors, incidentally. It was always in the fog of war that they introduced these kinds of statutes, and we signed up to them unwittingly. Mm-hmm. Consciousness, by distinction, is that you awaken within this fucking dream spell and step back from it and say, I will not comply, acquiesce, or play into the satanic agenda. I will not purpose my life toward this objective any longer. Get thee behind me, Satan, and step out of that engagement, that entanglement. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we are capacitors for divinity. Boom. That's what we are. It's what we do. It's what the human is. An incredible transdimensional, hyperdimensional technology. And lurching toward you and your babies with graphene oxide infused lethal cocktails, dressed up and masquerading as a vaccine program to apparently mitigate another masquerade of a pandemic, is all theater, satanic and luciferic false light theater, all designed to get you mind-fucked into acquiescing, abnegating your sovereignty, and abdicating your reason. If you choose to abdicate or abnegate or surrender, you're bad, people. You're bad. You are the one who's damned. You are the one who's put your soul on the line. And that's what this is all about. That is what this whole theater is all about. That's what this axiomatic point is in our evolutionary ladder. 2020, 2021, 2022. This is it. You've got a doctor here, the right kind of doctor, who is explaining the metric from her clinical perspective. I'm speaking to it from a radical frontliner, researcher, activist perspective. Graphene oxide, when it is pumped into the human body, turns you into an antenna. You are being turned in systemically into a micro antenna system that will then pick up whatever is broadcast toward you. That's a spike protein. So let's speak a little bit, Dr. Atousa, about the real existential threat to our species right now, which is the unconscious collusion of the medical and academic fraternity working hand in glove with an unconscious and witless technocracy working at the behest of government, itself a witless, hollow technology being wielded by invisible masters. What is happening to our bodies the minute that vaccine, that lethal injection masquerading as a vaccine, enters our bodies?
Yeah. So especially with the mRNA vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna, which is this phenomenon has been seen, pretty much the mRNA, it's a synthetic RNA made in a lab that codes that RNA that is being injected into the human body, codes that RNA to enter the cell. So basically, The mRNA is synthesized in the lab. It's encapsulated within a nanolipid cell wall. So the lipid cell wall is basically nanoparticles, and this makes that virus, the mRNA, basically synthesized, invisible to your immune cells, immune system. So therefore, it is capable of entering the normal human cell and circulation. And then basically the messenger RNA tells your ribosomes, once inside of the cell, what kind of protein to make. And so because that synthetic mRNA has been coded to produce the spike protein, the S1 or spike protein of the virus, then your cells in your body start to make spike proteins, which is not a kind of protein that the human genome is coded to make. So now at every organ system, every cellular system, in tissue levels, etc., your body starts to synthesize and replicate this spike protein. Then the spike protein, which is a foreign protein, is now recognized after its replication and release from the cells. Now it is recognized as a foreign antigen to which your immune cells will attack and try to neutralize. So what happens is the certain cells like macrophages and T helper cells, etc., monocytes, etc., they come and they engulf the spike protein. And now you have massive amounts of monocytes, which new research will say they are non-classified monocytes, are circulating and keep on inviting more cytokines. The cytokines are inflammasomes or inflammatory, pro-inflammatory cells that keep on coming to rescue. But what it does, it basically is increasing inflammation in the body, and therefore there is thrombosis and there is a blood clot, there are strokes and myocarditis and heart attacks that are as an adverse reaction to this vaccination. Now, when you invite these cytokines through like interleukins, especially interleukin 1, 6, and 8, then these will basically also, because it's a nanotechnology, it crosses blood-brain barrier, because we have a barrier, a natural God-given barrier between our blood and our brain. It's the sanctity of human blood that is being breached. And so therefore, basically our brain is also bombarded by this cellular activity. And what happens is the same kind of reactions that you see or phenomena that you see in Parkinson's or extrapyramidal problems such as tremors and shaking and varieties of ataxia, abnormal gait, etc., which is all a central nervous system problem, will take place, giving rise to side effects like Guillain-Barré or MS-like symptoms, multiple sclerosis, and so, or even Bell's palsy. So this is crossing your blood-brain barrier. Now, in the case of these auditory hallucinations, same thing is happening. They are crossing the blood-brain barrier, and the temporal lobe of the brain that is involved with language and auditory cortex is activated, stimulated. And this is exactly what is seen in the garden variety schizophrenia, where they have radiographs of brain activity, and they see that how those cortices, temporal cortex, parietal cortex, involved in language and auditory cortex, are overstimulated. In certain other images or imagery, they also see reduction of the gray matter in these cortices. To be more specific, in the superior and middle temporal gyrus or gyri. there is the reduction of gray matter in people who have auditory hallucinations. And this is not a new thing. We've always known this. And there is also increased activity in these cortices of the in the primary auditory cortex, as well as the middle and superior gyri of the temporal lobe. And sometimes the prefrontal cortex has also shown to increase activity in people with hallucinations in schizophrenia. And so we see the same phenomena. Now, Sacha, you know what's interesting? That I just looked into this recently because of all these cases of hallucinations. There is a couple of research on PubMed, NCBI, PubMed, which is a library of medical research, and anybody that does research can load it up, etc.
Yeah.
There has been also the same side effect about when people get the influenza vaccine. I didn't know that. So this is a new thing that I started researching on PubMed. And apparently, for years, there has been people that after receiving the influenza vaccine, the seasonal flu vaccine, they have also experienced auditory hallucinations in people with no history of schizophrenia or hallucinations. And so apparently, there has been research into that. And now we're faced with the same thing in people with this COVID mRNA vaccination. So, the science is there. It's just, there is also pseudoscience that is basically propagated by the mainstream narrative of medical authorities, etc. And it's really sad because a totally otherwise healthy young individual trusts their own government and the medical authority. And now suddenly they have to deal with auditory hallucination or the other side effects, such as myocarditis in young male adults, as young as 17 and 18 and 16, that basically opted to go get this shot. And now their parents are regretful and, they're talking about it. And the funny part, it's not funny, it's sad in a way, that CDC were going to have a halt on vaccinating the teenagers and the young adults because of the cases of myocarditis that were being reported.
Yeah.
But then suddenly that vanished.
So the intervention of human mind, body, and soul, because the so-called vaccine program is, in my considered view now, after so much investigation and the 1,000 media drops or so that I've done in the last 18 months on the subject with world-leading medical scientists and forensic analysts and whistleblowers and so on, people in the intelligence community as well. My takeaway is that the so-called vaccination program is a soul hacking technology. It's an attempt by these luciferic, satanic elements, proxies operating on behalf of the lower astral demonic realms to essentially hack into human soul, to be able to create a bypass. There is a huge shift taking place galactically speaking. We know this. I've spoken to sufficient astronomers, astrophysicists, astrotheologians, and so on. We know what's happening with this induction of vibral light that is increasingly bombarding our plane of existence, that we are subsequent to 1987, the harmonic convergence, and then 2012, the great crossover, then even 2020, the activation of the rainbow serpent, so to speak, last year. We're now moving into the tailspin of this incredible rush toward the ascension gate. And so that's the real politic happening in the heavens. And the desperate need for these lower astral, demonic, off-world, extraterrestrial, let's say, subdimensional entities to still be able to live through this earth plane and live vicariously through humanity is a matter of soul survival for them. So we are dealing here, friends, I'm saying it, I'm not gargling acid, I'm saying it categorically. This is alien intervention, if we want to look at it that way and use that language. But that's what it is. So the Bill Gateses and the Anthony Fauci's and the other satanic proxies, lost souls operating through the technocracy and government and so on, these sad subhuman creatures themselves are operating as hollow vehicles. The morons in hazmat suits in hospitals and clinics around the world who are trying to snatch people like something out of a bad Batman film, get them into their clutches and inject them and sedate them, murder them. These people are uninstalled. Invariably, they've certainly long bypassed any reason or conscience. Mm-hmm. So you need to increasingly just become aware of the fact that you must step out of any covenant or compact or invisible contract with that aspect of the status quo. Decouple, deregister, disentangle yourself from the medical fraternity, from the government control in that sense. It becomes very vital that we start to do that. We are moving through a civilizational bifurcation, and it is going to see a zombie apocalypse almost certainly on our streets in the days ahead. That's my contention. That's my takeaway. And I do regard myself as something of a witness, having had thousands of conversations with such brilliant people like yourself, Dr. Atousa.
Thank you.
We are going to see more and more aberrant behavior coming out of people on the street, in the neighborhood, even in your own home, friends. I just made a film this week with Nicole Pinter-Craner. I'll be releasing that at the Lazarus Symposium on Sunday. Anyone interested, sign up at the LazarusInitiative.com, I think it is. Is it .com or .org? LazarusInitiative.com. Sign up, watch the symposium this Sunday. My God, not only have I got incredible scientist, Dr. Brooks Agnew, the Hollow Earth expert, Santos Bonacci, the syncretism guru, David Sarita, Shenaz Soni, Dan Winter. I've got some of the greatest scientific minds on earth attending the symposium. One of the people that I've just interviewed for the Lazarus Symposium is Nicole Pinter-Craner. This woman is famous for being an animal whisperer. And she has high-end clients around the world. Listen closely to what I'm about to say, friends. First time you're going to hear it here. She works with very wealthy clients, in some cases with racehorses, polo ponies, and obviously dogs and cats. There is a phenomenon that has been occurring in her field of clairvoyancy. Owners are phoning her up and saying, can you please speak to my racehorse? It's not responding. It's not behaving. She's communicating with the animals across the board, friends, all around the world. And the animals, when she's communicating to them in her telepathy, and she's asking them, what's the problem? To the cat or the dog or the racehorse or the polo pony, what's the problem? And the animal, why are you not responding to your owner? Why are you not behaving? The animals are all saying, that's not my owner. I don't recognize them anymore. She's discovered that the owners are all those people who have taken the vaccine. Their DNA, RNA has been snapped. They are not the same being. An animal can see this, friends. Animals read in electrography. They read in auric field. They read subtle body, energy, ultraviolet, infrared. Cats see infrared, for instance. That's why they can see in the dark. Mm-hmm. Animals can see because they're still primal. In the primal sense, they're innocent. They're not contaminated with the intellect like you and I, with the monkey mind. They are seeing the fact that their owners no longer exist. This is an extraordinary revelation. I go into this a great deal more in the Lazarus Symposium this weekend. But just to say, this is real. This is coming down the wire. To those of you who have had vaccines, are stupid enough to have allowed this kind of intervention of your sovereignty and your reason, you've got some serious homework to do in terms of reclamation. This is my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. Last time I looked, we were allowed to speak in this world and have opinions on matters. So I will speak my opinion to the 1,000 people in my enlightened audience who are watching this live, and the many tens and hundreds of thousands who will see this in the next few days.
Yeah.
It is down to you and me. We are the ones who are required for the reckoning. The reckoning is about you and your relationship with you. The government is not here to save you. Bill Gates is not here to save you. Joseph Sock Puppet Biden is not here to save you. The World Health Organization is not here to save you. These are all false, light, luciferic, in that sense, Saturnian or satanic elements that have co-opted our natural born, God-given, innate, intrinsic majesty as living sons and daughters of God. Wake up, people. And once you've awoken, please God, wake up your kin. And then march out your front door and awaken your neighbors and your community, and then your society or your culture. If you don't do it, you will be extincted. That is what we've come to. We're about to enter the zombie apocalypse because the damage being done to DNA, RNA, the interposition, the snapping, the breaking of the so-called DNA. I'm speaking in reductive terms for the layman. We don't know what is going to be beamed in to that hollow vehicle. But you can bet that what Dr. Atousa is witnessing as a medical doctor, as a phenomenon, that people are hearing voices in their heads. Things are being beamed into their body. Information is being beamed in, which will change and adapt the fabric of your soul if you continue to abnegate your soul sovereignty. So that's my takeaway for today. Dr. Atousa, words of advice to people foolhardy enough to have taken these lethal chemical toxins.
Yeah. So I am of the belief that that people can still detoxify if they are spiritually awakened. There is redemption. To me, nobody is beyond hope, and everybody can detox. This is how I'm going to go about it. Obviously, when I deal with more and more people with hallucinations, etc., and other adverse effects of the vaccine. And they can detoxify by taking certain herbs and certain supplements. And I've been actually putting together a protocol that I've been sharing with my followers, my audience, and my patients, students, etc. And also, I have not seen any proof of this, but it is talked about in many circles that not every batch of the vaccine is equal to the other batch. That some of these batches of the vaccines are placebo, because this is a global experimentation.
Yes, it is. Yes, ma'am, you're absolutely right about that. We know this to be true. And a lot of them are placebo as well. It's not just a small contingent.
Exactly. And that's why a lot of people, even elderly, will have both shots and they never even have a slight fever or a slight pain, nothing. And then you have even young people taking it, and then suddenly they have all these reactions to it. So not everybody who has received it is in the same shoes for this reason. And also those who have taken the real poison, you can still detoxify. And you could do that by taking certain herbs and supplements such as shilajit, such as stinging nettle tea, such as just as simple as fennel tea and pine needle tea. All of these have shikimic acid in them. And Judy Mikovits, who basically did some of the early AIDS research, etc., HIV AIDS research, etc., and they were participating with NIH in during those times with Fauci. She said that when they were coming up with an antidote, that they realized that shikimic acid neutralizes the spike protein. And so things that I just mentioned, shilajit, which is an Ayurvedic volcanic ash, and don't take it in a capsule. Make sure the one that you get is really a salve or an ash-like substance that becomes a little bit saffy and resin-like, and you take a pinch and you put it under your tongue and detoxify with that. Or pine needle tea, which is not easily found, but you may still find it. Again, stinging nettle tea, Japanese nutweed. Japanese nutweed. That's another good one. Yeah.
Very good. There's also something else that we've been promoting because of the extraordinary. Yeah. So folks who are online, so many people are asking questions here. The rootbrands.com/5D. I'm just putting this in, guys. Check this out. The Root Brands, correct? .com/5D. That's just okay. This is an extraordinary protocol by Dr. Christina Ram, and I really urge everyone to look at this. And we've studied the microscopy. It is the most extraordinary breakthrough. 10 minutes after taking this product, what it's doing to purge the blood in the system of essentially the effects connected to the graphene oxide and all the rest of it. Have a look at that, friends. I'm going to go through, Dr. Atousa, some of the. Actually, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to quickly see if I can share my screen and show you all something. One moment. Video file. Can I do this? No, I can't do that. I can share my screen. There we go. Watch this, folks. I hope you can see this. It's a very short segment from the Lazarus Initiative, but I want you to see this, and this is connected to what is also being triggered inside human blood, or inside the human body, forgive me, by this transmissions, information being beamed into us and causing self-replicating nanodiodes and various phenomena to occur within the human biology. Again, using the silica and the carbonate within your own system to create these nano, apparently intelligent entities to begin to grow, self-replicate, and create what appears to be an AI transhumanist neural pathway. Have a look at this. I hope this works. Yeah. Did you see that okay?
Yeah. It was perfect.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. So this is the kind of wickedness taking place inside our bodies, friends, courtesy of your friendly government, who, whether it knows it or not, has been working in collusion with the deep state and these satanic elements within academia since the time of Goebbels, since the time of Adolf Hitler, since the time of all of the genetic experiments being taken out by Dr. Mengele against young children and what have you. in the concentration camps. I mean, this is how diabolical it all is. Look out your window. And I ask people in every broadcast I do to please look out your window and tell me, do you see piles of dead bodies? Do you see the Black Plague? Do you see the Great Pestilence? Do you see men with wheelbarrows carting bodies off to the... No, you don't. Do you see people leaning up against the wall or the lamppost, coughing blood and phlegm onto the pavement? No, you do not. Why not? That's because there is no pandemic, friends. There is an evil cacophony of all sorts of monstrous agendas taking place. Yes, yes, indeed. And that is courtesy of the thing called government. And don't be shy, be bold. When the creature that is mandated to protect and serve you is weaponized against you and is now trying to murder your babies and your grandparents, do something about it, friends. This is your world. You're born to this world. You're not born to take the knee to Boris Johnson or to Joseph Biden or any of these other pedophilic fantasists. God knows they're all corrupted beyond redemption themselves. We're living now in a hollow simulation game. And the prize is your soul, is my soul. So let's waken up from within that dream spell, friends, and do it for ourselves. Dr. Atousa, we're drawing to the end somewhat of this. Special ways to detoxify the body from the spike protein. You've spoken to a number of them. I've also given out something that I endorse 100%, which is the root products. There's something else coming up shortly. I just made the film with the famous Dr. Raghavan yesterday. That'll be coming out next week. And we also have testaments from countless people around the world that you can, in fact, mend the breach in the DNA RNA. You can actually mend it. Up until now, I was not convinced you could. Outside of the grace of God, Dr. Atousa, and I know you're speaking to that aspect of our divine supernature. It's just that my take is that people who have consciously or willfully already abnegated and taken that left fork in the road, to them, they're irretrievable and irredeemable, in my view, unless there's a tremendous turn around internally, in which case, of course, absolution and redemption is there.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And you know, something that resonated with me when you said you don't see any dead bodies, you know, look around, look in your neighborhood, etc. Well, you know what you see, though, in every neighborhood? 5G towers.
Well, thank you. You know, you're amazing. Debbie just handed me a note saying 5G, and there you go. We're connected. So yes, indeed. So the toxic soup that we're all living through in the kill grid in our cities, in our towns, not me. I'm sitting on the banks of a beautiful, pristine lake in Mexico, blessed to have the one place in town that has decent internet today. But
I envy you.
When you speak to 5G, and Dr. Atousa, you are so very welcome here. We're setting up a sanctuary and a full faculty for the New Earth University and a protectorate for good scientists and doctors to do their work unimpeded. And I'll be speaking to you more about that. Very, very exciting project. But let's just speak momentarily to that, to 5G. And again, I don't want to take up too much time. People are tired of my wheezing, but I'm passionate about the subject. 5G, 4G, 3G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, telegraphy, it is all the same thing. Simply picking up the remote control in your bedroom and using that, friends, Bluetooth, you are activating highly lethal, highly toxic isotopes and frequencies are issuing out of that device. We are living in toxic soup, and it's become increasingly devastating to biological systems, really since telegraphy and the telephone system 100 odd years ago. So we've seen a dial-up. Cancer, frankly, didn't exist in the 1800s, 1600s. It didn't exist. Yes, the odd, mutation here, metastasizing cells and a wart on the nose. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about endemic cancer. Okay, the thing that kills 2 out of 3 people, or whatever the insane statistic is now, is all connected to how biological systems, the cells in your body, and the geometry of the atoms that hold everything together are in a state of incoherence. They move into a state of incoherence because they're being bombarded invisibly by this toxic soup of so-called EMFs. electromagnetic frequency intervention. Now, you have Tesla-based frequencies which feed the cells and correct the geometry of atoms and infuse us with serendipity and love and light, and are highly advantageous. But unfortunately, the Atlantean model of electricity that we have been working with and using in the world, subsequent to the Masonic takeover of science in the last 100-odd years, that's the problem here. So all of the hot electricity that surrounds us is death. It's entropic, and it kills and mutates cells and disturbs atoms. That's the problem. So remediation of 5G now becomes, as Dr. Atousa is about to allude, one of the single most important things you can do as well. And I will just pop into the thread for my friends, memon.global. Memon.global is the family of technologies that we've studied. We've done the microscopy ourselves. We have, for 8 or 9 months, longer actually, done the observances of that. That is the full suite technology. Swiss and German engineering, 25-year-old group. They are the most practiced in the world in the science. That's where you want to get your remediation technologies from online. I'll leave it to you, friends. Dr. Atousa, speak to us about 5G.
Yeah, so last year, as I started looking more and more into what is really going on with this COVID pandemic, all these different people have experiencing different symptoms, and a lot of them were young adults that would call me. They were either my yoga students, or they were Ayurvedic patients, or functional medicine patients, or chiropractic patients, etc. And they would call me and they would say young, and they would say, I have palpitation, I have chest pain, and they're young, in their 20s or early 30s, like generally in the millennial age range, otherwise very healthy. And so I started doing a little bit of research, and I realized that a lot of what they're talking about is effects of EMF are causing the same kind of symptomatology. And it was really interesting to me that there was actually in March 2020, everybody can look this up. In March of 2020, they passed a bill in the US. It's called House Resolution 6666, which is about tracing and tracking of people that have COVID, and basically tracing and tracking people who may be potential transmission for COVID, etc. But in that bill, they actually give carte blanche rights to tech companies to put out their 5G towers anywhere they want, and nobody can say anything about it.
Yeah.
And the good news, though, I'm not sure if it's a very good news or a mediocre good news, that RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., filed a case against FCC for rolling out the 5G towers without any objection, etc., by meaning tech companies rolling it out, and people cannot object. So they actually filed a suit with FCC, his organization, Children's Health Defense, and in April of 2020. And they just won that case in August.
That's right. That's right.
So which is helpful. But to me, it was so interesting that symptoms such as heat without having fever, which a lot of people with COVID were experiencing early on. Like they were hot, but they weren't having a fever. Chest pain, palpitation, dizziness, vertigo, which are central nervous system symptoms as a direct response to EMF. And so a lot of correlations and parallels between what was seemingly symptoms of COVID and 5G radiation toxicity.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, a lot of these articles and research papers that I would find on PubMed about effects of EMF were all taken down a few months later when
Yeah.
I wanted to source back to them.
Oh, strange that, isn't it? Well, folks, this is the film I made 3 years ago, 5G Apocalypse, the Extinction Event. It's been taken down as much as it's been put up, but it's been seen by millions and millions of people around the world, and I'm very proud of it. It was edited by Guy Soto. It is an incredible film, and in fact, Kennedy's key woman in this, Daphne, features in the film a great deal. Senators, weapons experts. But over 3 years ago, when I made that film, it was the early bird. I was warning people about this, including the voice to skull technology, the phased array antenna systems, the targeting going on through 5G. Everything that's playing out now was spoken to boldly in that film, 5G Apocalypse, the Extinction Event, which of course BBC and others tried to then do big hits on me, which didn't quite work out too well last year, did they? Mainstream media. But the point is, friends, it is desperately serious stuff. I'm just going to also share my screen because I am, again, here insisting that you're not going to know about this stuff unless you're told by people like us. And I want to be sure that you can mitigate. Take a look at this very briefly. So this is the company I'm recommending you folks look at. Everything from how your water gets purified. This is the Swiss engineering group. I was not planning on doing a pitch for Memon today, but whilst we're on the subject, I'm quite unashamed in it. I don't want to go back and edit this film. There are technologies here that are so brilliant for your kids' rooms, for school rooms, for clinics, for hospitals, for your car. Your government is not going to protect you against EMF toxic soup. You will simply drop dead in the streets when the 5G phased array antennas go live. If your immune system is not booted up, you're in deep trouble. The reason why people are turning blue and can't breathe, and it's being ascribed to COVID, is because there is, again, a toxic soup that people are subjected to. And that is causing them to have these extraordinary. Can you explain the process, Dr. Atousa, of how the blood deoxygenates given a certain triangulation of electromagnetic frequencies?
So in terms of understanding basically based on what I can speak to from the medical perspective, it's all about the inflammatory cytokines. And so first of all, we have to understand that the immune system is really in control of healing and repair and maintaining the tissues in the body. And when you start to change the electromagnetic energy field of the human system, because we are, like, every cell in our body has a pumping mechanism that is a polarizing pump, the negative ions versus the positive ions, and all the action potentials, whether it's at the musculoskeletal level, the nervous system, they all require voltages that are frequencies to be set at a certain level that is conducive for human physiology to actually work. But when you start to meddle with that electromagnetic field of energy and change the vibration or frequency that is basically stimulating the human system, then all of those neurotransmitters at the level of the brain, all the pumping channels at the cellular level start to malfunction. And when that happens, then your immune system, which is responsible for basically tissue repair and maintaining and regulation, is on high alert. But what does it do? How does it function? Well, it has all these immune cells that will have to alert the immune system to be looking for foreign substances as the inflammation increases with
Yeah.
the pro-inflammatory cells. And if your lungs are your weakest link, if for some reason, maybe you have asthma, maybe you have emphysema,
Yeah.
maybe you have COPDs, etc. So not everybody's lungs are gonna, be the target for this. As we see, some people's brains are the target. And so, but if you have any underlying pulmonary conditions, then the inflammation or the inflammatory cytokines target the alveoli in your lungs, which are spongy air-filled pockets that are basically doing the contraction, expansion, contraction, which is responsible for the respiration. And when you have inflammation and the cytokines going into that region, these alveoli are filled with water, which then causes your lungs not to be able to ventilate on itself or do the process of respiration. And so you will be experiencing shortness of breath, you will be experiencing difficulty breathing, etc.
Okay, and then your friendly public health administrator and their moronic protocols then suggest that you go onto remdesivir and intubation, which is designed to kill you stone dead, right?
Yeah. So very early on last year, I basically advised my family member, my friends, and my closest students and patients, etc., that by no means do you go to a hospital for the very reason of ventilations will kill. And this was in April of last year, because we knew that once they start to ventilate a fibrotic lungs, they're going to kill you.
Yes.
And in fact, there were respiratory nurses working in hospitals that were bawling and crying and saying, I left my shift and they put some nurse that is not even trained to administer ventilator to patients. And I came back the next day and my patient was gone. Where? In the morgue. They were in the morgue because they put them on ventilators and they basically killed them.
Yes.
And so, interestingly enough, most hospitals in the US are not ventilating anymore if someone goes with the shortness of breath, etc. And so, but nonetheless, even I lost an uncle and an aunt due to ventilators. And so in hospitals. And so they went in not having COVID. One of them went in for spinal surgery. The other one went in for bladder problem.
Right.
And while there, they diagnosed them with COVID.
Yeah.
And within a week, they were gone.
Right.
Within a week.
So what is the recourse? What is the recourse for this kind of death by government decree, medical murder taking place? What do you think the recourse is for people now who want to address this with the so-called authorities if they've lost a brother or a daughter or a son or a mother or a father?
I mean, you have to have the resources and the financial resources, etc., and sue.
Okay.
I mean, this is what legal action.
Okay. It's only going to happen at that level, because I know so much about that subject of remedy through law. That's going to happen, friends, when you go on the front foot and you begin crowdfunding campaigns in your neighborhoods and you begin class actions as well, and you see it through. And I would agree with you, Dr. Atousa, I would agree with you that the single most important element there is stamina. You have to have stamina. The entire godless system is designed for you to run out of breath, for you to run out of air, run out of money, run out of life force. Do not run out of life force. Stamina is everything in this game in finding remedy. We will find remedy. I said this to my late friend, Robert David Steele, who died 2 weeks ago because he was intubated and put on remdesivir in a hospital at the end of his tour. I was saying this over a year, 18 months ago. I think it was March of last year on Robert's show. And I expressed that what was going to be playing out would ultimately lead to the end of government as we understand it. The devastation that is happening to people and to planet as a direct result of this COVID-19 will ultimately lead to the eradication of government. Corporations masquerading as governments, I should say. And I'd remind people here, we're going to go now into some questions coming from the audience. I'd ask you very briefly to just answer in simple terms, Dr. Atousa, do the unvaccinated also need to detoxify from the spike proteins? If so, how?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. No question about it, because there is viral shedding.
Okay.
There's always been viral shedding from all vaccinations. So you need to do the same detox protocol. If you have access to infrared sauna, that's another great way to detoxification. Making sure you're on a healthy diet that is not going to cause more inflammation in your system. Okay. You know, you're just looking at your lifestyle, making sure you exercise, make sure you do breathing techniques and expand the lung capacity. Don't succumb to depression. Don't succumb to anxiety. Don't give in to the energy of fear, which Sacha can tell you, it has a very low vibrational frequency. Stay on top of your life and your lifestyle, your diet.
Bravo to that. And shield your ears, Dr. Atousa, and stay the fuck away from doctors, friends, in the main. Just do not. If you know, another friend of mine died yesterday. I'm not going to name the individual. It's just an old man, the husband of a very close friend, and same deal. He was not feeling good, was probably hit by some weaponized strain or pathogen and had a horrible turn a couple of weeks ago and was coughing and having difficulties breathing. But again, made the mistake of calling the ambulance. The minute you're in the custody of the corporation, friends, it is very difficult to get out. Everything there is designed to prevent you, including the police, who are witless morons in costume as well when it comes to this kind of enforcement. Mm-hmm. And they'll come and ensure that the medical professionals get the say. You see, you are owned so long as you're registered with a birth certificate. You are owned by the state. You're in trust. You're an infant. You don't have a decision. You don't have a mind. And this is the problem. And this is why I say I know that government as a technology will end at the end of the COVID-19, because it's so satanic and so wicked and it's so antithetical to life and to reason and to God that it will ultimately do unto itself. We're living through the end of days in that sense. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we are witnessing, bearing witness to the end of days in that sense. I'm going to go through questions now. This audience.
Before you go to the next question, everybody should be taking quercetin, zinc ionophores, vitamin D3, vitamin C, elderberry, astragalus, and you need to make sure your immune system is at its top of the game.
Very good.
And these are some of the ACE2 inhibitors, which, by the way, when you have a lot of inflammation in your system, these very anti-inflammatory supplements can really help you.
Great.
And also green tea, which has epigalactogen, which basically inhibits the spike protein from
very good.
Thank
you for that. Friends, you've been so patient, 1.5 hours, and I was planning a 30-minute broadcast, go figure. So I'm going to go through questions, and thank you all. Such beautiful comments coming through. Why is that demonic chair in the Vatican so large? It's too big for a man. Good question. Great question, Jay. Love it. Comply, and wonder why. That's also a good comment. I resigned recently to avoid the jab. Karina, I salute you for resigning recently to avoid the jab. I salute you as a sister. Check out Black Goo with Harold Klaus Vella. Actually, I have and did with the Lazarus Symposium. We had Harold on the symposium a couple of months ago. Go to lazarusinitiative.com. Check it out. Yes, and so the black goo, which would otherwise sound like some cheap science fiction notion, is a very, very real phenomenon. and one for very clever people to look at. Food as medicine, yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, friends, I'm looking for questions. I need questions. Anyone who hasn't done their shadow work will be on full display. That's from Lisa. You're absolutely bang on, sister. You're absolutely right. Beautifully stated. Anyone who hasn't done shadow work will be on full display. And that is the benediction of the zombie apocalypse. That is exactly correct. Well done, Karina. 3 days of darkness. Boom, boom, boom. You'll be with me on Sunday. Good for you, Rue. Look forward to it. Okay, friends, I'm not seeing questions. A lot of kind comments. Thank you. Any questions? Only questions now. Please, just put them in. I'm just going through still because there's literally hundreds and hundreds of comments. I'm trying to see. What about frequencies? Okay, Dr. Atousa touched on that. This field of communication vibrates from the 5D realm. Okay, a bit too abstruse for this program. Pine needles. Yes, white pine needles. I've been on that protocol since mid-tour in the United States, and I definitely felt a very real effect taking that essence. I'm not quite sure what it's got in it, but it felt amazing. And I'm still doing it now, actually. Okay, I'm going to go right to the bottom, catch the bottom. Will the shot cause blood in the urine?
It may. It may vary. In fact, there has been a lot of bladder issues in people who took the shot. A lot of bladder issues, a lot of reproductive issues. Some of my patients and students, female, have been having genitourinary issues. Some of them didn't take the vaccine, but their parents who lived with them got it. And as a result of the shedding, the student started having irregular menstruation, bladder infections, UTIs, and these were, some of them weren't even directly vaccinated, but lived in proximity to people who got vaccinated. So blood in urine, definitely. Women after menopause have been reporting that they have started massive bleeding, like 10 years after menopause, not like 2 years or a year. And so, yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm just taking the liberty of using your name there. Forgive me, Dr. Atousa. I'm not suggesting you endorse anything here, but I'm just using it so people can see the names written out. There you have it, friends. Many of you are asking what were the names. The 5G remediation is memon.global. Go there. Amazing stuff there. And the remediation of the vax injury or any deficiency that you're having biologically, we are seeing dealt with by this incredible Root Brands product. So therootbrands.com/5D. So get your pen and paper out and check those out there. Further questions? Friends, how long can the shedding last for, Dr. Atousa?
It really depends. If people keep on getting the booster shots, their body is going to keep on producing the spike protein and keep on shedding it. But let's say if they don't take the booster shots, it could last for a whole year. And then it clears itself out.
Gotcha. Gail's asking, will there eventually be a blood test to see if you've been poisoned by injection?
Yeah. So right now you could go get a D-dimer test if you are in the US, I believe. I don't know about Europe. But if you got the shot or didn't, and you want to see an inflammatory marker that may cause blood clots, you could get the D-dimer test, and perhaps your practitioner can order that for you. If you've had COVID before or something that resembled COVID, and you want to see if you have the natural antibodies, which is the natural immunity actually, get an IgG, IgM test, blood test.
Right, right. Someone's asking here about diabetes. Sorry, I didn't get the question. They're coming in so fast now. The question is, are diabetics more, how does the diabetic Deal. What do you do if you're diabetic is the question. Forgive me. There we go.
Yeah. So type 2 diabetes, very much treatable with natural remedies, lifestyle and dietary changes, and exercise. And so I don't know if that general idea answers your question. But as an herb, gymnema, which is an Ayurvedic herb, gymnema, GYM, gymnema, is very effective.
Very good.
Shilajit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it true that once vaccinated, the juice goes straight to the ovaries and bone marrow in women?
There has been research that actually says that they are actually targeting very specific tissues, organ tissues, and ovaries have been one of those tissues. And that is why there has been massive number of menstrual irregularities, etc.
Okay. What do you take for damaged lungs? That's being asked by Debbie Garrett Bates.
Yeah, so you need to definitely do certain self-care at home, steaming inhalation with certain herbs such as sage essential oil, eucalyptus tea tree oil, oil of oregano, gargle with it. You could put a couple of drops in warm water, drink it. Every day you should gargle with turmeric and salt water. Or if you can have access to triphala, open a capsule of triphala and add salt and gargle it. You should be doing a steam inhalation with herbs such as sage or thyme or oregano, oil of oregano. Every day, a couple of times a day. You should be doing tapping. You should be doing tapping on your chest.
Oh, that's good.
At the same time, you start to do certain chants like so this type of thing for having you to stimulate cough, stimulate breaking all the fibrotic and mucus formation that is acting as fibrosis within the lungs tissue. And so there are different methods that are self-care that you could do that prove to be very effective, in fact.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, a good question. I have clients on psychotropic medications. They're not being informed of contraindications. How might this vax affect their meds?
People that are already on psychotropic medication?
I don't know. I'm assuming that's the question.
How does this affect them? Here's the thing. By definition, so those psychotropic medications will sort of regulate the neurotransmitters in such a way that it diminishes activity. So it's not that these people with hallucinations or psychosis have already been patients that are taking those medications. So this is people that are not taking any medication.
Got it. Okay. How many levels does shedding, Laurie, your grammar is terrible. How many levels does shedding goes further? If unvaxxed person is in close proximity to vaxxed people, will that unvaxxed person then shed the viral load to other unvaxxed people?
I mean, it's like anything else. The further you are from the source, the less viral load there will be to be shed, or spike protein load in this case to be shed. And so therefore, depends really how far from the main source the person is. But here's the thing, humanity needs to detox. It doesn't matter how close. You never know in the school, at work, who's breathing out what. And so therefore, everybody should be cognizant and take care of their body.
Beautiful.
And don't take things for granted.
Beautiful. Question from Mark. I love your question, Mark. Can there be a positive frequency sent out to counter against 5G? Well, I'm going to answer that question because I regard myself as the expert here.
Yeah,
the answer is yes, you can. The answer is categorically, yes, you can. Yes, we can. And it goes back to this. It goes back to you and I being divine capacitors of limitless, immortal, immanent, ineffable, vibral light, universal light. We are transcoders, we are capacitors for limitlessness, ultimately for healing of everything, for remedy toward everything. of abundance and prosperity toward everything. That's what we're designed to do and to be. If you tune in to our Lazarus initiative on the weekend, Sunday, with Laura Eisenhower, Dr. Brooks Agnew, David Sarita, Shenaz Soni, and Dan Winter, Santos Bonacci as well, the great guru on syncretism. Well, David Sarita will be speaking about the frequency sets that can offset harm to biological cells. Dan Winter understands the metric. Our NASA rocket scientist there, Shenaz Soni, will speak at great length to the metric. And Laura Eisenhower has perspectives as well that are very enlightening. So I'm using this as a moment to pitch. Cosmological economics is what we're also doing on Sunday, friends. That man in the middle there, Alexander Straker, incredible guy, economist, who has learned how to read sun, moon, and stars and the motions of the heavens using special mathematical algorithms, and computation, has learned how to play the markets, the financial markets. He turned $1,000 into $120,000 using the method, and is now prepared to go somewhat public in a cautious way. And he's doing that through the Lazarus initiative. And I've got Laura as a great astrologer, and Dan Winter is one of the greatest mathematical minds on earth, also looking in on that segment. And we've also got Santos Bonacci, the icon, and Dr. Brooks Agnew doing delightful presentations on actually it's hollow earth versus flat earth, the science. And the reason why I'm speaking to this is because when you understand that the mathematics of flat earth can apply to the mathematics of round earth, can apply to the mathematics of torus earth, can apply to the mathematics of hollow earth, when you understand that you can apply stellar parallax and advanced mathematical formulae to different models of reality, and the same math will actually prove all models out ultimately, that teaches us that we're living in a holonomic or holographic field of limitless expression, and that consensus or will, or how we project our collective plasma, determines what we see. So if we want to live on a round planet, and enough of us are projecting into the zeitgeist that we are living on a round planet, the universe leans in and she plays with us and she conforms, and it's a round planet. And similarly, if it's a flat one, if that's consensus, it will conform to that. That is how extraordinary our true state of grace or hyperdimensional state of being is. It's limitless. So we have to be the ones to step away from the binary, dualistic, limited, formulaic way of looking at reality, which is up, down, left, right bullshit. That's just the most reductive triangulation of consciousness trying to navigate limitlessness. And that's where we're trapped in our little hologram. And we've been so trapped for so long in this reductive, stupid, sweet binary logic that we have manifested an end of days scenario for ourselves in order to wake us up from the sleep, to defibrillate us as a species. That's why we are projecting into the field Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, the satanic governments, all of this bloodletting. It is how we are collectively dealing with the unresolved aspects of the greater self, the Gestalt. So know that to be thus, know that to be so, and then all of a sudden we're reclaiming our sovereign expression and our divinity and moving toward an incredible outcome, which is anchoring patterns of perfection to this world and manifesting heaven on earth. Dr. Atousa, it's been an absolute delight speaking with you, and I have a feeling that we're going to be on again within a couple of weeks, if that's okay with you, because there are literally now, hundreds and hundreds of comments came through just since we spoke. And what I'd like to do, Dr. Atousa, if it's okay with you, is I'd like to come back again and almost replicate this broadcast but do it just as an interactive Q&A. And what we'll with people of the world, what we'll do is we will promote it and then let folks put it in their diaries. I dropped this broadcast 2 minutes to midnight on everyone, and we've got well over 1,000 people who've stayed with us throughout for an hour and a half, which is not bad going. But let's leave it at that for today. Dr. Atousa, any last comments or thoughts you want to express?
Well, thank you so much for having me here today and having this delightful conversation with you. I would be happy to come back. I see a question and I just want to make sure I respond to it quickly. Someone is asking if they can put sage or eucalyptus oil with the salt in the neti pot. No, don't put any of these strong essential oils in your neti pot. What you could do is to use triphala and salt in your neti pot. Triphala and salt. Sage oil, you could rub it on your chest. All of these thermogenic oils like sage, eucalyptus, tea tree oil, you could rub it on your chest. Keep it warm. There are very specific Ayurvedic herbs that can be recommended, but that requires a consultation because everybody is very unique. But these general ideas that I gave and shared today, everybody can use. And yes, everybody can use these tools, and with the right action about your diet, your lifestyle, your daily routines, the way you take care of your soul is the answer.
Beautiful.
And that is what the powers that be, they don't want us to do. They just want to offer a donut for the jab or offer beer.
Well, I'll take the donut. I mean, I'm partial to a donut. I'll take the donut and then I'll tell them to fuck off. But you know, but the donut is mine anyway, and the value of the donut is discharged against my birth bond, and the government's just not telling me that. So it's already my donut, and I know that. And so we should just prosecute them for fraud. Trying to defraud us of our own donuts is a shocking state of affairs. But look, someone's asking for, do I have an email? Yes, of course I do. Am I mad enough to put it in public domain? No, is the answer. But I'll tell you what you can do is I'll put Debbie's in. There we go. She's not happy about this. Debbie@humanitad.org. So if you really need me, please do. I'm looking for, any whistleblowers out there, any people in the medical science profession. And I'm serious here. People like Dr. Atousa, and there's so many around the world who are coming forward and speaking truth to power and truth to this Luciferianism. Come forward, step forward. This is how we manifest change in our world. We do it by pure truth and right action in the now. Friends, you've been very gracious. So many of you joining us for so long. Thank you. I will be bringing Dr. Atousa back. Dr. Atousa, you're an absolute gem of a human being. It's been such a delight speaking to you. Thank you. I thank you. God bless you. Okay, friends, signing off. Good night.